Rightio, welcome ladies and gentlemen to a live Breathe to Succeed, unplanned, unscheduled and unshaven, I'm going to call this one. Andrew Soper, firstly welcome.
Thanks, Paulie.
And to the top of you, which is a little bit, I don't know exactly what you guys can see, David Nash joins me. Firstly, David, welcome and thanks for joining us from Campbell's Comments, mate.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Andrew.
For those who aren't aware, I'm just trying to make sure this is working. I think it is. It's going somewhere anyway. David, you are from Kentucky Equine Research and you've come on board as naming rights sponsors this year. Your sponsors last year with Breed to Succeed, but you guys have chose to come on as a naming rights sponsor this year.
Yep, that's fantastic. And I think we had Rebecca Ham speak with Andrew last year. So we'll recap some of that and work with our brand partners, Barastock.
Yep, which is key. And Andrew, Barastock didn't hesitate getting back involved?
No, look, and last year was such a fantastic success, and the idea of running these talks and the educational component of it's very important, and it's been really worthwhile for us being involved, and the feedback's been terrific. So it's really good to have KER again this year to help educate people around their feeding and breeding success. Absolutely,
and it created a lot of conversation. I think that's a key part with any of these seminars and digital online ones that you do. You actually just create, I suppose, conversations between people, and then people start to improve what they do by just having the awareness of these online forums or forums where people can actually go to.
And I think they're more relaxed, aren't they? That they'll actually ask a question when you go to a live event. And you're speaking, a lot of people are a bit scared or embarrassed to ask the question that everyone else wants to ask. So these more relaxed environments, people will ask the question that they've been wanting to ask for years. So it's really good.
Absolutely. I have to get through a little bit of the proper stuff. Now, I want you gentlemen, just when you're just sitting still, just if you feel a gust of wind at all, just give me the heads up, will you? Because, and I'll tell you why afterwards. It's a very simple one. But the upcoming dates, so the 4th of July, that one's been, this one's a bonus one. The 26th of July at Shepparton is a live online forum where people are going to be. There's going to be some trade displays on those days. David, you won't be at this one. But Peter Huntington will be.
Yep. Dr. Huntington will be up there, and I'll be at the Ballarat one.
You'll be at the Ballarat one. So this is on the 26th of July at Shep. It is still going ahead at the minute. Obviously, things will change or could change with COVID. And if they do, we'll keep you updated and go from there. 8th of August, I've got another online one. And then the 23rd of August. Now, this is where you didn't feel any gust of wind, you guys? No, it's all good. Very good. You're very quiet, both of you. Is at Ballarat. And that's going to be a very important one as well. So. And then we'll close out with one on the 5th of September. But please, the 26th of July at Shepparton, make sure you book. You've got to go onto hbv.org.au and register your intentions, especially now with the way COVID's going. It could be a matter of first in, best dressed if numbers do get capped. And you're mad if you don't go to these days, especially if you're a member and you're not far away, because there's a couple of great prizes. David, you probably don't follow a lot of the harness racing, but American Ideal, who has been offered up by Woodland Stud, and plus you guys in Kentucky Equine and Barastock are both on there, but American Ideal last night set Albion Park alight. He's just doing some great things with his siring and the likes, and it's a free service to anyone that attends either of these two venues, and they'll just go into a raffle. And you can get a $12,000 service fee to American Ideal, who is the pin-up horse going around. It's a $12,000 service fee. It's not to be sneezed at. It's a great incentive to go there on the day. And then also with Pastor Stephen, Northern Rivers Equine Veterinary Clinic, as well as Lualong Farms. Now, I've included both those together because Dr. Kath McIntosh has got separate names, so it's going to be known as Lualong Farms going forward, but we'll leave the Northern Rivers there. Plus you two guys, Kentucky Equine and Barastock as well with Pastor Stevens, and that's a $6,000 service fee. So there's $18,000 worth of service fees on offer for anyone that attends either of those 2 days. Sign up to be a member and register your intentions to be there. But if you're wondering what the gust of wind was, Kath McIntosh reckons I could have knocked her over when I gave out the wrong date the other day on Ballarat. It is definitely the 23rd of August. So I haven't seen if she's joined in or not at the minute, but if she does, Desiree's already corrected me. American Ideal is $12,500 1,000. So won't be the last time Desiree corrects me today either. So they're very, very important days. And as well as that, and the reason you guys are going to be there is a heap of sponsors there. There's going to be, I think, nearly 20 trade displays. So not only will you get to listen to experts from the veterinary field plus breeding field, you'll also have access to all you guys as trade displays where they'll be able to come up and ask personal questions to you and find out the answers in person if they don't want to get involved over this here. For bookings at Shepparton or Ballarat, you can also phone 5852 2845 or email admin@northernriversequine.com. So that is actually tagged into our feed. So if anyone wants to get involved with any of that, please, it's tagged into the feed there. So Desiree's got me going. She's got everything under control. Rightio. Breeding. Simple job. Get the mare in foal, spits out the foal, and you raise the foal, and it is that simple. And I think that's the one thing that we worked out, Andrew, from last year. So much more planning needs to go into it as far as when you're breeding, what you're going to feed, how you're going to feed those horses, and also changing those diets as they progress.
Yeah, I think that was a good takeaway message last year that, people hadn't really taken into consideration this time of the year that grass doesn't have a whole lot of nutritional value in it because it's cold and we're still waiting for the spring to come. So you've got to compensate with your feed with that. But then when spring kicks in, you've got to make sure that they don't do too well and get too heavy and create issues falling down. So last year we had quite a few people send us pictures of their mares after we did the talk with Rebecca Ham. And we were able to help them with their diets just from the pictures they sent through. And they then sent us progress photos and then photos of when the mare had foaled down. And it all went really well for them, went to plan, and they were very pleased with the end result. And hopefully they've got a couple of champions for the future. But
planning is key, and it's probably the one message we got out. Like I think last year we did our first show was in July, and we had a lot of people sitting up and being aware of what they had to do. Planning around your environment too. David, you're down in Gippsland. It's all good and well, and myself and Andrew quite often joke about this. I'll ring up, what do you feed? Or people ring me personally as a person that feeds horses and says, oh, what do you feed? Your horses look good. There's a lot more involved in it than just giving them the right feed, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The environment is the number one factor. I mean, grass is probably the number one intake for the brood mares and the young stock. So I'm down in Gippsland. Come springtime, we're going to have a hell of a lot better pasture than someone in the northeast that's unirrigated. And our pasture down in Gippsland will hang on a lot longer. Interesting enough, I've seen the horses that are on the dry pasture in northeast Victoria, and they'll hang on a lot longer. They'll do really well. So, but knowing what your pasture's doing is really important, and then we can match whatever supplementation needs to occur after that. And that will change throughout the year as well.
And that was one of the takeaways we had last year. And I'm going to fire this question back to you, David, actually, because one of the questions we had was being aware of what you feed, getting it all tested, and the likes of Andrew reiterated that over and over again. But it is such an important factor of not just saying I've got green grass. I live in Victoria, in central Victoria. It gets to about 30 degrees, and the likes. There's so much more involved in the whole process of how you feed and the environment and looking at your environment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, pasture intake on a lot of places is 80-90% of what you're feeding your horse. So if you actually don't know what it is, us as nutritionists and advisors actually can't do our job correctly. So getting your pasture tested, I like to do it at least 3 to 4 times a year so that you know what it's doing in summer. August, coming into autumn, that's that autumn break. Over winter, we'll get a lot more water into the pasture. So they might be eating a lot, but they'll be eating, as you can imagine. And then coming into spring, warms up, those sugars, the proteins are really high, and you can really get your diet out of balance and get those mares and young stock overweight very quickly. And if you're feeding a huge amount of feed on top of that, you're really unbalancing the diet. So it's really important just to know exactly what you're feeding at all times. And costing you a huge amount of money if you don't need to.
I think that was definitely one of the things we did take away last year. Was a lot of people were probably feeding too much to what they needed to be actually feeding, and the likes. I want to go to the water one there in a sec, but Andrew, going forward, we've got a couple of little things with David about checking the hay and the quality of the hay, and it is important. Can you get away with average or less good quality hay at certain times of the year? But like right now, would you need the best quality hay you can because of how wet all the pasture is?
Yeah, like it comes down to like Nashi was saying before, it's evaluating your pasture and where's your pasture at, and basically compensating for any shortfalls that the pasture's got. So at the moment, there's not a whole lot. I live in Lancefield. We've had a lot of frost here over the last 6 weeks or so. So the grass has actually been burnt off from the frost, so there's no value in it at all. So we're actually feeding better hay at the moment than what we would in spring. Spring, it's more just a filler. The cheaper pasture, natural pasture sort of hays in spring. So you've got to adjust it to the time of year and what they're doing. So, you've got to look at your pasture. This time of the year, you're not mowing your lawn. And when it starts to grow, then the pasture's kicking off in the paddocks, and that's when you need to reevaluate what you're feeding out there as well.
But what you just said then is the key component about how different the environments are. I am mowing my lawn. Our grass is growing here, even though it's wet, and that's a difference with the climates, isn't it? Like Lancefield, you're not mowing your lawn; it stays there, and that's a key sort of takeaway part.
It is, and that's there's a lot to having horses, and it's just being aware of what's going on. The lawn's a pretty easy thing to look at to know. You can have a few mares in a paddock and not really notice the grass has taken off, but then you walk around the house going, "Gee, I need to mow the lawn again." Well, the mares are already consuming the grass in the paddock because it's not getting away on them. So, they're getting that better nutritional value because it is kicking on with the sugars and the proteins, like David said before. So, then you've got to reevaluate, which hay should you be feeding? Do you need to change from a full feed to a concentrate, or from a concentrate to a full feed? You've really got to keep an eye on what's going on to make sure that you are adjusting it before it becomes an issue with your horses.
David, from your point of view, as a nutritionist, and I'm not exactly sure how long you went to school, like scientifically wise, the research that keeps getting done in this field, I would imagine, is just ongoing all the time. Like Kentucky Equine Research is a worldwide company, not just an Australian-wide company, as is Ridley and Barristock. And it's so important to listen to the experts, isn't it?
Yeah, we never stop learning, and equine research or equine nutrition research in probably the last 20 years has come along leaps and bounds. Like for us at Kentucky Equine Research, we've got 3 research farms now in the US. One day soon, Dr. Pagan wants one in Australia, so hopefully that might be near me or my place. But we look at performance. We look at we look at the breeding. So breeding is the most important part for us, because if you don't set your young stock up right, how do you expect them to race correctly? Throwing back a little bit to that question on the hays, if you've got pasture like you have at the moment, it's really high in water content, but it's still growing. We're lacking that effective fibre. So the horses evolved on fibre, and one of the telltale signs if we're not getting some fibre in is your horses might turn into termites and start eating rails and posts, etc. They're looking for that effective fibre for their hindgut bacteria. So if you're in that situation, which could be in different parts of Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, some of that long stem hay might be really effective to keep that microbial balance in their hindgut nice and healthy.
So when you say long stem hay, doesn't it just any sort of hay, or is there can you describe that a little bit for me? Or
okay, so the easiest way is a physical grab test. So if you grab your hay and it's nice and soft, that's very digestible hay. So you can sort of bank that for times when your pasture's poor. But if you grab your hay and it's stalky and it sort of hurts your hand a little bit, it's high in lignin and some of those indigestible fibres. So that's sort of something that we want the microbes in the hindgut of the horse to actually start digesting. That'll create some internal heat as well, so they'll keep them warm, so they're not wasting energy. But it'll create that environment so that there's bacteria are nice and healthy and well balanced.
That's huge, like from a racing point of view, and a lot of people here in Central Victoria, especially with pine posts and the likes, horses do go through stages where they hammer the post. So there is a correlation with that and potentially what they're chasing.
Potentially, but it's more what we've found is it's that lack of effective fibre in the diet is one of the reasons why we think they're searching for it. And if you correct that with some high fibre hay or higher lignin, higher hemicellulose hay, that'll actually reduce the incidence of them gnawing on posts.
Does the type of hay matter? Like, is it grass hay? Like, if you've got a hard stalky grass hay or good open hay or lucerne, is there a combination?
Probably either a more stalkier grass hay, but like first cut lucerne, if you can get hold of that, if you still want some protein, or some moderate quality oaten hay will give you that effective fibre.
Can you feed too much hay? Can you give mares, like a lot of people put a round bale out with a horse out in the paddock? Is that a good way to do it, or should you do your 2.5% of their body weight each day, or is it a little bit flexible?
Depends on your management program, but horses are sort of self-limiting. They'll eat up to 3% of their body weight. So if you're giving them enough ad lib hay, they'll self-regulate themselves. The worst thing you want to do is if you actually really want to push that supplementation into them. Generally, the horses will eat that because most feeds are quite palatable, so they'll go for the supplementation over the hay and pasture. But what I think you'll find more is that the horses will waste more hay than they just won't eat it. So if it's bucketing down rain like it has been all weekend and you put out a huge amount of hay, they may waste a fair bit of it. So I think it's managing that and then managing your feed budget as well.
And they're key components, because if you put a round bale out and you're losing, you can say, well, it's cheap because it cost me $50, but if half that's been left on the ground and not been eaten,
it's $100.
Yeah, it's just sitting on the ground, and it doesn't help your pasture or that going forward either.
Yeah, and that's the same when we look at feed as well. You see a lot of people feed, they just throw the pellets or the cubes on the ground. They're not putting them in feeders. You're wasting a lot potentially, and if you're not cleaning out feed bins and whatnot, you want everything that you put out for the horses to be consumed. So it's really a balancing act of management as well as your financial aspects.
Nowadays, a lot of the feeds are pelletised, especially with the mares. Barrow-stock, they're a pelletised feed. They're a lot easier for them to digest, but we get weather like we do now, and it gets awfully wet in the bottoms of feed bins and soggy, and they tend to leave it. Is there something we should be doing around that, or is it like, obviously put it under cover if you can, but is there something that people should be doing to try and rectify that as a problem?
I think one thing we can do is we can cube it. So we can step up to a cube. What we see there is that those cubes are actually a bit harder, and they cop a lot more water before they start to disintegrate. But I think a good thing with management is if you're just handing out enough for the horses to eat per day and not doing it every second day or third day, the horses are going to eat up that, and you're not going to waste much. And the best thing about it is while you're feeding them up, you can check them, check their legs, check if there's injuries, see if a horse is growing too quick or not quick enough, so you can make those adjustments as well.
While you're on to that part there, and Andrew, by all means, don't sit back and just say nothing, because I'll ask a question. Don't you worry about that. Monitoring your mares, like this is a breeders show. Monitoring your mares when they are in foal, like they should be getting bigger because they've got a foal growing inside of them. But how much attention should you be taking? Should you be taking notice every day as to whether they're getting bigger, or is it something that you should monitor, over a week or a month basis? Silence is deadly. Used to. One of you's got to say.
Oh, I was throwing to Andrew.
Look, if you've got mares, you really do need to keep a pretty good eye on them. Anyway, because they can slip a foal, they can drop one early, so it's ideal to run your hands over them and have a look back in the milk bar area and make sure that there's nothing too much going on there before it should be. Get to know your mares. When do they start to bag up a little bit? Is that normal for that mare? Is it not normal? You've got to be a bit all over it. I'm an everyday, twice a day sort of person. I like to feed up morning and night and see what's going on. Are they happy? Are they not happy? If they're not happy, why are they not happy? And investigate it before it becomes an issue. But yeah, certainly. I mean, everyone's got time constraints and it's dark, but get a head torch, get out there and run your eyes over them in the morning before you take off to work. Make sure everything's okay. But yeah, probably the biggest thing that I see is people just getting a bit too heavy going into foaling down. And it just makes it a bit harder for the mare, and in turn, if you've got to get the vet, it makes it hard work for them too, and it's not ideal for the foal coming out when they're that big. So that's probably the big take-home message is just, don't have them too heavy for that last little bit.
Yeah, and it makes the job for the AI technician once they're foaled and get them back into foal. If they're obese again, their conception rate's going to be lower.
Is there an optimum weight for brood mares?
It's not. I wouldn't say it's a weight. It's a condition score. So I think Beck and Andrew went over condition scores of mares. So you've got the two versions. You've got the 0 to 5, and you've got the 1 to 9. Having that good, moderate to fleshy condition score, I think it is the best. Obviously, under condition is not optimal, because then the mare looks like the foal's sucking it out of her. And like Andrew said, with the obese horses, it just creates all types of complications.
You want to have a little bit of weight on them, but not over the top, because the foal will drag a little bit out of the mare over time. So, it's a lot easier to have them a bit too fleshy, I suppose, not over the top, but the foal will drag them down a little bit. So you want to have them, in reasonable condition going into foaling down.
Yeah, and that lactation stage, the mares actually can't eat enough feed to maintain their energy requirements. So they're in that energy deficit for that period of time of lactation. So they go in with a bit of reserves. They'll come out after 3 months, cherry ripe.
So they actually can't eat enough to maintain their weight when they're in that stage of lactating.
Yeah, some of those big lactating mares will have an energy requirement more than a thoroughbred racehorse in full work. Because remember, they're trying to maintain their body weight. They're producing all that milk for the foal as well. So, there's a lot going on there. So we really need to have those reserves and keep that mare fed as much as she'll eat.
Got a lot of people watching. Anyone wants to ask either David or Andrew a question, by all means, fire it in. How far out do you plan to get a mare in foal? Like David, as a scientist, no, but a lot of people will be racing horses now, and they say, right, we're going to get this mare in foal, and then also the back paddock mare, the mare that hasn't had a foal for a couple of years. Like, is there a desired time from a nutritionist point of view that you should be planning ahead to get a mare in foal as we're leading into spring?
Probably from my point of view, dry mares, I'd be starting to think about it come the end of April. What my plan is she in poor condition? If she's coming out of racing and, she's in lean condition, I want to put some condition on her, get her body assimilated to more of a pasture maintenance than being a high grain diet. So for those ones, I'd be looking to get that condition over winter on them. Probably in preparing if those mares that haven't had a foal in the few years before, Are they probably ask that question? Are they subfertile? Like, did we have trouble getting them in foal previously? So that's one question, and then we could actually go to our, if we're natural serving or we're using AI, we can look at different nutritional solutions to actually help with that subfertile animal, such as DHA, so those omega-3s, or things like Q10 we've found helps with mares, but also subfertile stallions. So there's a few little nutritional tricks that we can help with those subfertile animals as well.
They're products of Kerr?
Yep, we make one. We call one, the DHA EPA is called EO3, and the Q10 product is called Nano Q10.
By all means, mate, you can drop as many names as you like. Campbell's Comments is known for dropping names. Don't you worry about that. I don't know if you've seen the hat and the side. I gave you a drive by actually the last show. I don't think I've got a Kerr hat. Just putting it out there, but that's okay.
We'll talk to Ashley. We'll have to get that happening.
Back there a little bit, you said about how much water is in the grass and horses not drinking, and this is one that really hits home right at the minute, especially here in Central Victoria, everywhere right across the state. We've had so much water this last week, and it's not letting up. We've got racehorses. The horses seem to stop drinking. Do they drink out of the puddles? Are they getting that moisture out of the grass? What is actually going on there, David? Why do they back off right at the minute?
They will be eating their water literally at the moment if they're on pasture a lot, and that's more so the brood mares. Probably this week it's been a bit colder as well, so horses naturally won't have that thirst appetite when it's colder. So in North America and Europe, they actually have heated water troughs because the horses don't drink. So that nice tepid water, 8 to 15 degrees. That's probably a really nice temperature range. But if it's getting colder, and like Andrew's had frosts and it's a cold hellhole over there at Lancefield, horses will not drink. I've moved. They won't drink as efficiently as they did. So there's a few things. The long stem hay, that actually does encourage horses to drink. So the old adage is 1 kilo of hay, you'll get 3 to 4 litres of water intake from that. Salt will actually encourage that thirst response as well.
That's pretty key. So one thing I'm taking from this discussion is hay, and right at the minute is such an important tool for your brood mares and mares in foals. I think people are watching this and have just got ponies or horses in their backyard. I think hay is still one of the most important products right at the minute. You guys sell a lot of supplements and the likes, but you just keep coming back to that long stalky hay. Right at the minute will definitely help them and help them drink, which is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we'll always go back. Horses evolved on low quality roughage, and probably us as feed companies, we realise that, so we actually have a solution for different parts of the year. So Andrew spoke about, we have full feeds, we have concentrates, then we have balancer pellets. So we can ratchet up and down the nutritional profile as we're required, and still actually get the same result. So that's the key of actually being smart manufacturers, smart nutritionists, is making sure we've got a solution for every environment.
And Andrew, that's also the part about reaching out to you guys and being, getting in contact with you, so you can come out to the farms. We spoke about COVID, that you've been able to do a few through video messaging and the likes, like we're doing right now. You've had to change it up a little bit because of COVID, but it is key that you get people to come and have a look. Don't just, as I said before, don't just ring up and say, "Oh, what are you feeding?" Instead of ringing Paul Campbell, ring Andrew Soper or David Nash or Kerr and Barristock, and ring them and ask an expert, or ask for them to send someone out if you're really concerned.
Oh, look, we do that a lot. I've been out with a farm with David and Peter Huntington this week, and we're looking at a lot of different aspects of that farm. They're a big operation. It is a thoroughbred farm, but trying to put a program together for them going forward. It's a fairly new farm, so we're involved in that. we've tested the pasture, we've tested the hay, we've had a look at their water source as well. And then, we've looked at their different farms. They've got more than one property that they keep their horses on. So, it's a pretty complex thing. But I guess the one thing that we have too is that we do travel the state. So we can certainly give advice to the different parts of the state because we sort of have a good handle on what goes on. I do quite a few of the standardbred farms as well. And, a lot of those northern Victoria on, that irrigated country or, a bit warmer climate. So, it's a bit different to feeding, the standardbred farms in Ballarat as well. So, it's a different process for those guys there. So, it's always good to get someone to look. It might not be the feed company that you're using at the moment. We've been invited onto farms that we're not their choice of feed, but they do like to get a second opinion on a 12 monthly basis. So they just get us to come in and have a look. And if there's something not quite right, we can point it out, and whether they stay with the current feed company or they come to us to help them going forward is for them to decide. But we're certainly there to help and help everyone achieve success with.
And probably with the pastures, Andrew, we've taken thousands of samples of pasture over the last 20, 30 years. So whilst you mightn't have your pasture tested yet, we can sort of have a rough idea of what's going on in your area, and then we can work from that.
And the other part. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Keep going, Andrew.
No, and that's the thing. Like David said, we know that there's certainly correlations to different areas with their pasture and their soil and the issues they have, with that feeding program. So we already have that in mind, but the bigger operations, we probably drill down a little bit more and customise a diet for them. But we can certainly adjust it through the year as it goes. This year's probably been a better year here in Victoria, so we've been using more of the concentrates for the farms here this year because they've had more feed on the ground. But now that it's cooled down and there's not that pasture, they're going back to more the full feeds to get the calorie intake as well.
From a holistic point of view, like if you asked all the studs, as I said, you go around and you say, what are they feeding? What feed are they feeding? David lives down in Gippsland. There's not a lot of harness racing stables down in Gippsland, but I would imagine they have to feed such a different feed to what we do here in Central Victoria, and then again at the Goulburn Valley. That's the other component about it. It's a little bit of location where you are is one of the key components. And as David said there before, Andrew, where you live, you've got to bolt your horse's feet to the ground from time to time when the wind picks up, as well as not just the cold air.
Yeah, look, and it does change, and it's when you get around, you see even just the quality of hay in different areas, what your local hay is compared to somewhere else. We get calls from people from Mildura, for example. There is no grass hay in Mildura. It is all just cereal hays up there. So we really have to customise the diet, knowing that it can be done. There's no issues with it, but we work with what's available to the people. We don't say, oh, geez, you need to get grass hay and drive to Bendigo to get some. That's just not practical for those people. So we set up a diet for those people to use what they've got that's available and is affordable too. Not everybody can afford prime lucerne hay either, so we can work around that as well.
But David, the affordability too probably comes back to the part we were saying there before. Feed them too much, you're leaving it in the feed bin, not feeding them the right feed at the time. Like you just give them a round bale of hay, but it's a wrong hay, it's just going to end up on the ground. And that's the other part. Sometimes ringing the experts, you might think this is going to cost you, could save you a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, coming from the nutrition background where we also looked at broilers and pigs and cows and dairy cows, it's you've costed a lot of the diets per head per day, and with the larger horse operations we can do that to achieve the same result for the most economical way, and that may change throughout the year. The other point of overfeeding them is you actually could love your horse to death type thing. You can, if you feed them too much and too much high levels of sugars and carbohydrates, you can actually increase the chances of the foals having OCD or DOD, and that's the last thing we want to do. Is we've spent all this time and effort getting this foal born, we don't want to reduce its chances of being a champion.
Absolutely not, and that's what Campbell's comments, or not Campbell's, it really is Campbell's comments, but Breed to Succeed is about, is actually to, I suppose, minimise the cost to raising a champion, is the best way, and that's what we're trying to do. We haven't had any questions. We've got a lot of people watching us, but we haven't had any questions at all, which is really good. Andrew, is there anything that, well, it's not really good, actually, I'd like people to get involved. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Andrew?
I think everyone's just been shy, Paul. No, look, I think, hopefully the COVID thing is it settles itself down and we can get up to the night at Shepparton with Jim Basie and Angus McKinnon there. You can't get two better people to talk on the breeding side of it. Angus has done some talks for us at some conferences and stuff, and when he gets talking about camels and stuff, that's quite fascinating too with what he's done with that. But you got to have some great people there. Dr. Peter Huntington's coming up. You don't often get access to these people outside of their normal workday. So, what a fantastic opportunity. And, for us, for the smaller breeders to come along and be able to pin us down and have that conversation about what they're doing at home and how to best succeed with what they're trying to achieve. We certainly get a big buzz out of, helping people with the feed program and seeing them succeed. With breeding that, that champion and being involved in that, it's quite a buzz for us too. So we thoroughly enjoy what we do and enjoy being a part of what the Harness Breeders Victoria is all about and what they're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. David, was there anything else you wanted to cross off on?
That was full stop.
I said David, not Andrew. You've covered off on most of the things, David?
Yeah, I think we have. I think it's the main take-home point is if you're unsure, ask. We're here to help, and like Andrew said, we actually get a buzz out of seeing those foals grow up to be race horses or performance horses or whatever, and that's why we do this job. Someone says, "Do you enjoy your job?" Well, it's not really a job, is it? It's just our lifestyle. So we love doing this thing.
I think that
we're all horse people too. David's got his.
You broke up that last bit.
David's got a small breeding operation, and I was going to say, we're horse people too. Here we are on a Sunday. David just jumped off a horse. We've been out playing with our horses here on the farm, and Paul, you've got your horses, and your daughter's out riding, and your wife's chasing her around, just trying to get her to everywhere she needs to be. But we're certainly invested in what we do, and we are hands-on, and we're very much a part of it. So. That's quite a benefit to everybody.
David didn't take a lot of convincing to sit down with us instead of riding another horse, though, did he?
No. I had to ride that last one.
Nick Cooper actually has got on here, which is he's the president. David, for your information, but thank you, Barrastock and KER, for your sponsorship for Breed to Succeed too, and your intel today. So, which is really good. Nick's a shy person; he never really talks up. He actually will be at the seminar on the 26th of July at Shepparton. I'm encouraging people to bring their swags, because once he starts on his talk, it could go forever. Between him and Brett Coffey, it could get very dangerous. But I really encourage everyone to go there, because he's a passionate breeder as well. He's the president of the association, but he's a passionate breeder, and he's a person that wants to improve the industry, which is what we're all about going forward. So please don't forget the dates for that very quickly. I missed the button, sorry boys. The Breed to Succeed, the 26th of July at Shepparton and the 23rd of August at Ballarat. At the minute, they're still going ahead on those days. Members attending the Shepparton and Ballarat event will go into the barrier draw, a raffle to either win a service fee to Pastor Stevens, donated by Lualong Farms, at the value of $5,500 or $6,500. I may have got into trouble there. I best just have another. No, $5,500 for Pastor Stephen, and also American Ideal, donated by Woodland Stud, who have been great contributors and sponsors to this show as well. He's valued at $12,500. He left Group 1 winners last night. He is the sire on the up, and he's an incredible sire. American Ideal doing a great job, that's for sure. I've got to be careful because we've had a couple of ones here. Great information. Congratulations to David and Andrew. That's from Jared Maloney. And 4 hours So, as I said, Nick's very shy. He's already predicted 4 hours the show is going to go for. David, you think I'm joking? I'm being serious here. Don't you worry about that. It is but it'll be very informative. But please, also on those dates, don't think you're just going to go there and listen to the vets and the breeding experts. Got access to you guys with trade displays, plus all the food is provided and all the drink will be provided as well. So it's all fully catered for. Must register your intent. I was giving, now I've got to read one here. A good mare, sometimes a good mare won't work out as a breeding prospect. Can the guys give some tips on transitioning diet from breeding to potential hero prospects? Right, there's a curveball for you.
Yep.
You're okay with that one, David? So instead of being a broodmare to being a riding horse, so yeah, I'll throw over to you, David.
Yep, I think that's touching base when I was speaking about setting that racehorse mare up to be a breeding animal. It's all about letting them down, and most people know the idea of letting them down. We're taking them from that high, rich sugar diet, carbohydrates, down to a more roughage-based diet, and what that needs to do is we need to change the type of bacteria in the horse's hindgut. So when the horse is a racehorse, the bacteria is more aligned to digesting grains. When they become a hero horse or more the equestrian horses, we want that to be more that fibre digesting bacteria. So we need time. So what I would suggest doing is becoming more of that high fibre diet. If we're still performing them and we want that condition, we can feed our horses what people may know as super fibres. So they're highly digestible forms. So these are beet pulps, these are almond hulls, soy hulls. So we put a lot of these into products such as Calm Performer or Competitor or Low GI, which is feeds that Barrostock make. What we find there is that once we get that change the bacteria in the hindgut, it also calms them down. It's more balanced. So we're not sending messages or signals to the brain to be more that raspberry cordial effect. So we're actually having those horses calmer. And probably the main take home for horses that are going to transition into that hero program is it's not going to happen in a month. This needs to be a slow, gradual approach, and then you'll get the best enjoyment out of those horses.
Can I just add to that too? When you're changing the diets around, we get a lot of calls about people saying, "Oh, I've tried the feed and I fed it for 4 or 5 days and the horse got hot." I really think you've got to give the horse. I always say to people, on the back of the bag it says transition over 7 to 14 days. You need to give the horse the time to adjust to the different feed, and particularly if they've just been on pasture or not that good a feed anyway, it takes them a little bit of time to adjust. So they'll start on a new diet, and the horse will feel well because it's getting all the nutrients that it needs from that feed. But don't mistake the feeling well to feeling hot and sparky. Give the horse another week to get used to the diet, and it'll come back down to being quite level-headed and normal. And then, proceed with tweaking your diet from there if you need to. But, when you change your feed, give it some time. Give it 2 or 3 weeks to let the horse get used to it, and then evaluate whether it's the right feed for the level of energy you want for your hero program horse.
Yeah, we quickly forget that they're bred to be racehorses. They're bred to go fast. Now we want them to go slow, and we want them to do it in a week. It's not going to happen.
I can see a whole nother show coming up here going forward, David. Don't you? David's like, yeah. It was a little bit unlucky for the people at home. I didn't realise, because I've got 2 computers, everyone's wondering what I'm looking at. The boys are on one computer, what's going out is on another one. David's laugh when Andrew said about the time it takes. Obviously, it's a question that gets asked quite a lot in that same form, that they've fed it for 2 or 3 days. I gave a David, and it's one of the more common questions you guys get asked.
I think it's that instant gratification now of the modern world. Is we want it to work now, and don't worry, we don't get that just from the equestrians, we get it from everybody. my man won't get in foal. What can I give it now?
Yep.
No, you need to actually manage your horse over a longer period of time.
And that gets back to what you were saying there before, that if you've got your broodmare in the back paddock and you're going to send it to Pastor Stephen or American Ideal this season, you probably should have been planning that in April. Plan it now. Get in touch now. Don't think, oh well, I've got, there's another month before the weather warms up. We'll just leave her there and forget about her. Get planning now, and then you'll not only get it foal in earlier and easier and earlier, but you'll have a better and a healthier mare, which means you'll have a better and healthier foal, which means you breed a champion.
There you go.
Well, I think too on that, if you've had issues getting your mare in foal last year and you didn't get her in foal, then you need to have a chat with your vet now and get that mare checked out so the vet can get her set up if she needs to be set up or cleaned up or whatever the scenario is, so as that you start the season ready to go instead of starting the season and she's not ready, and you get to February and it's done and dusted and you didn't get another foal. So preparation's the key for everything, and be prepared. If you had trouble, consult with your vet, make sure that everything's right, and then you'll have some success early on.
And that's key, Andrew. Like last year we did the inaugural Breed to Succeed, and this year it's changed a little bit of tact. But last year's are still there on file. Go to the harnessbreedersvictoria.org. You can watch both the episodes of yourself and Beck Ham. Then the second one was on raising yearlings and feeding yearlings. But it was also Sarah Gray, Kath McIntosh. They gave great insight into other issues of why you can't get that mare in foal and the forward planning. So it's a wet day. Everyone's in lockdown. Go back and watch them and get on top of them and go from there. Please, if you're anywhere near Shepparton on the 26th of July, please make sure you register. Become a member, firstly, of Harness Breeders Victoria. Make sure you're a member and get there onto those dates, because it is key. And these are the sort of questions you can go up and ask. You won't be able to ask David that one at Shepparton on July 26th, but at the 23rd of August at Ballarat, David will be there, as well as about 25 other stall holders going forward as well, plus the vets. There'll be everyone. It'll be great. The 23rd of August will be a lot easier because it'll be spring. It'll be a bit warmer. But I think this one at Shepparton, with the public, the breeding population in Shepparton, I think it's very easy for people to get into there. 5852 2845 or email admin@northernriversequine.com to get your bookings going for there. I've got one more question that's come through by the looks, guys. No. Broodmare Nutrition, Breed to Succeed 2020. So there's a tag in there. So Desiree, she doesn't miss anything. Desiree doesn't. And then Weanling and Yearling Nutrition. Both those were brought to you by Barrastock and Kentucky Equine. So make sure you get back and watch those. And don't forget, thank you very much to Northern Rivers or Lualong Farms for the service fees, both to Pastor Stephen and American Ideal, as well as Woodlands Stud, Barrastock, Kentucky Equine. Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking a bit of time off on a Sunday for an impromptu Breed to Succeed, but just thought we'd get it out there, refresh a few people, and as I say, if you're anywhere near either of those seminars, get there. Nick Hooper's going to be there. It'll be a lot of fun, I think, to get there, and I thank you very much. Thank you very much, David, for joining Campbell's Comments for the first time. It's not going to be the last. Won't be the last time. I'll get more out of you. And Andrew Saber, thank you very much. Don't go outside because it'll be cold in Lancefield. I know the answer to that, mate.
But then you're like they've finished feeding up and I can just stay inside, but I don't like my chances.
You and me both. I sit up over the top. I'm sitting up over the top. I can see what's going on, and ours are half fed, so I'm going okay. It's all right. I'll stay up. I'm just going to make out we're still talking, and it'll be fine.
Don't worry, David was checking too. He's looking out the door. The room there.
Stables are empty still.
Gumboots on, jacket on.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
That's great. No, thanks, Paul. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.